All right. Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Schultz. I am the Water Education Specialist with the California Department of Water Resources, and I would like to welcome you to Frequent Flyers of the Delta. This is our third Water Wednesday Scientist Chat. If you missed the previous two on fish and invertebrates, or bugs as we like to call them, you can find them on our DWR YouTube channel. The mission of the California Department of Water Resources is to sustainably manage the water resources of California in cooperation with other agencies to benefit the state's people and protect, restore, and enhance the natural and human environments. Our first 5 Water Wednesdays are taking us to one of those environments, the Sacramento San Joaquin River Delta. So far, we've gotten to meet some of the fish and bugs that live in the Delta, and today we're joined by Danica Sau, who will be introducing us to some of the birds that live there. If you've joined us in the past, you are probably familiar with the Delta by now, but for those of us joining for the first, or those of you joining for the first time, let me give you a quick overview. The Sacramento San Joaquin River Delta is a 500,000 acre maze of land and water, and it's formed where the Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers meet. It is located just inland of the San Francisco Bay and then stretches as far upriver as Sacramento and Stockton. The Delta is one of California's most important natural resources. It not only provides water to over 27 million Californians and hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland, but it is also home to hundreds, if not thousands, of species of wildlife, including the birds that we're going to hear about today. So before I turn this over to Danica, I just want to give everybody a quick overview of a few logistics. If you are joining us from Zoom, your cameras are turned off and your microphones are muted, but we really do want to hear from you. So you can pose questions in the chat box and we will do our best to answer as many as we can. We usually have between about 80 and 100 people joining us, so it's not always possible to get to all the questions, but we promise we will do our best. If you're joining Zoom for the first time, you can find the chat feature down at the bottom of your screen. You may need to hover over it with your cursor, but there's a little speech bubble with the word chat underneath it. And then all you have to do is put whatever question you have for Danica into the chat box, and we'll answer as many of those as we can. So without any further ado, I would like to turn it over to Danica. Danica, tell us all about those amazing Delta birds, please.
All right. Thanks, Kathy. I'm going to get my screen shared, and then I should be good to go. Except for I think I maybe screwed something up. Anyway.
It looks great.
Oh, you can see it? I
can
don't see it. Here we go. Okay, I'm ready. Sorry, guys. As Kathy said, my name's Danica. I'm a bird biologist. My title is Senior Environmental Scientist here at DWR. I spend a lot of time watching and studying and thinking about birds. Over the years, I've studied ducks and shorebirds and secretive marsh birds in San Francisco Bay and the Central Valley. I've counted songbirds in Yosemite, and here at DWR, I work mostly in the Delta, and I get to focus on protected bird species there. You might be wondering why a water agency like DWR cares about birds. Well, some of these birds live and find their food in the water and wetlands. But also, the water that DWR is dealing with is connected to the land where most of these bird species live. And birds are an important part of these ecosystems. It's not like there's a wall kind of put up right where the water ends and the land begins. So any maintenance or operations of the water facilities, any restoration projects that are aimed at helping some of the fish species, all of these could affect birds in positive or negative ways. And so part of my job is to make sure that we avoid or reduce those negative impacts and find ways to enhance the positive impacts to birds where we can. As Kathy said, in the past couple of weeks, you've been able to learn about, if you've been able to tune in to this Water Wednesday series, you've been able to learn about fish and bugs in the Delta. And the Delta is this vast estuary that provides clean drinking water to Californians. It's also a very important place for birds because it provides so many different habitats. I'll be using the word habitat a lot today. Basically, the habitat is a place either in the land or in the water where an animal or plant lives. For birds, it provides a food, water, and shelter that they need to grow, survive, and raise their young. So just remember throughout this, when I use the word habitat, I basically mean the bird's home. In this picture of the Delta, you can see that there's a lot of water. There's some natural channels here, and also looks like a kind of straight man-made channel. In these rivers, there are some small islands that contain wetlands. And then on these larger islands, which used to be wetlands, they're now mostly farm fields, some grasslands and wetlands as well. And then along all of these waterways and on the islands, there are trees and shrubs. So all of these different habitats, and then within the Delta where we have good weather and there's water and food available year round, this supports more than 200 bird species, which is a lot. Some birds live in the Delta year round. They take advantage of all the good weather and food, and they don't see any need to leave. So in wetlands in the Delta, we have birds like this red-winged blackbird, great blue herons over here on the left, and great egrets. Ducks like mallards will also hang out in the Delta year-round. One of my personal favorites, California black rail, lives within the vegetation in the marshes in the Delta. And a lot of these birds can spend their whole lives living in the Delta. They'll eat bugs and fish, seeds, other plant material, and just find it a really nice place to live. The Delta is also home to resident songbirds. They live in the trees, shrubs, grasslands, kind of all throughout the Delta. Birds like this western meadowlark here, which hangs out in the grasslands. Hummingbirds, this hummingbird's in a really cute little nest. It's probably about this big. House wrens, and another one of my favorites, the loggerhead shrike, can be found here year round. Also in the Delta, we have hawks and owls, such as this red-tailed hawk, great horned owls and their two little chicks, burrowing owls, which nest in the ground in rodent burrows, and white-tailed kites. All of these birds on this slide hunt for other small animals, and they find those in the grasslands, and farm fields, and all the open areas here in the Delta. So you can see the Delta is home to a lot of different birds. This was just a few of the many species that hang out in the Delta year-round. Another reason why the Delta is a really cool place, it's not only a home full-time to a lot of birds, it's also an important destination and a rest stop for migratory birds. What's a migratory bird? Well, many animals migrate. Migrate means just to move between different places for different parts of their life. So I'll be using the word migrate and migratory a lot today when talking about birds. And why do birds migrate? Well, many species of birds raise their young and breed in areas with lots of food and water and good weather in the summer. And then they'll fly to areas that have lots of good food and good weather in the winter. You know, up in Alaska right now, it's sunny a lot and there's a lot of birds breeding up there, but in the winter in Alaska, can't find a lot of food, so they'll kind of fly down south. Birds tend to migrate along these routes, so we call them flyways. Flyways are basically like a highway that are used by commuting birds as they fly between their different destinations. The Pacific Flyway, shown in blue here, connects Central and South America up to Canada and Alaska. And as you can see, California and the Delta are kind of right in the middle of this big flyway. There are over 1 billion birds that travel along the Pacific Flyway each year. And again, with the Delta being in the middle of that, we see millions of individual birds passing through. And it's especially interesting to me because right now with a lot of us stuck at home this spring, just thinking about how lucky birds are to get to travel this far and go see somewhere new just whenever they want. And some of these birds will travel nonstop. They'll fly up to 7,000 miles between their winter and summer grounds to take advantage of the food in those areas. It takes a lot of energy to fly that far, you know, you can imagine. So before they migrate, birds prepare for their journey by fattening up, eating a lot of food, and getting ready to fly away. So while some may fly straight to their destination, other birds will stop along their way, basically using like a chain of habitats all the way down to where they're going to stop and rest and refuel, kind of like we would on a road trip. So some of the migratory birds that stop through the Delta just for a few days to a few weeks on their journeys are here in this picture. Makes the Delta a really important place. Without the habitats in the Delta and some of the other stopover sites along the Flyway that provide the food and shelter for these birds, they wouldn't make it to their destinations. You know, in spring and fall are the main times for migration. During this time of year, we can see these beautiful songbirds like a Wilson's warbler, western tanagers with their bright red heads, and yellow warblers. They travel from Mexico and Central America up to the Sierra Nevada mountains, the Pacific Northwest to breed. So they spend some time here in the Delta along their way. Shorebirds like this semi-palmated plover is heading to Alaska to breed. And so they'll use some of the wetland habitats in the Delta and to eat and get themselves ready for the next part of their journey. Some birds who spend their winters in Central and South America migrate to the Delta in the spring and summer to breed here. Again, with all this food and good weather, that's a great place to breed. This beautiful Bullock's oriole here, western bluebird, Ashwin flycatcher, they come from Central America as well, and they nest in the trees along the rivers and wetlands in the Delta. Black-necked stilts here are a really cool shorebird, and they'll build their nests on the ground in wetlands. Winter is a particularly exciting time for birds in the Delta. We get millions of ducks, geese, and shorebirds, and hawks and songbirds. They breed up in Alaska, Canada, up in the Arctic, and then they'll fly south to the Delta during the winter. Up here, we have northern pintail and green-winged teal, snow geese here in the middle, and huge flocks of shorebirds like these western sandpipers. They come to the Delta and they eat bugs, leftover grains from the harvested farm fields like rice and corn, and some plants as well. We also get some small songbirds like a yellow-rumped warbler. We can find them in cities and in some of the more open habitats, so eating bugs in the trees. Cedar waxwings over here on the right are another favorite of mine. They fly around in flocks and eat berries. And then all these birds in the spring fly to wherever their summer homes will be. So again, this is just another example of how many birds use the Delta year-round and what a special place it is. So up next, I'm going to focus on a couple of bird species that I work with a lot in the Delta. They migrate to the Delta for very important parts of their lives. They're both state threatened species. Which means they're protected by state laws. One migrates here during the summer and is here right now, and the other migrates here during the winter. I hope you enjoy it. First up is a Swainson's hawk. They're here right now. They show up in about mid-March. They build nests, they raise their young, and then they leave by late September. They breed throughout the western United States and winter as far south as Argentina. But most of the birds that breed here in the Delta, which is here on this red star, will winter in Mexico, western Mexico, and then some birds actually do go down to Central and South America, but not as far as some of the birds that breed in the interior part of the United States. In the Delta, they use the farm fields like alfalfa, these grasslands to hunt for mice and other prey, and they nest in the trees nearby. Again, they're a threatened species in California, mostly because their populations have declined due to habitat loss, both on their breeding and their wintering grounds. One way to tell a Swainson's hawk from similar hawks is they're a pretty large hawk. They're about 1.5 to 2 feet long, and they weigh anywhere from 1 to 4 pounds. They are a little bit bigger than a crow, a little bit smaller than a red-tailed hawk. One way to tell them apart from red-tailed hawks, which are related and very similar, is that Swainson's hawks have the light feathers along the leading edge of these long tapered wings. And then on the trailing edge of the wings are some darker feathers. Whereas red-tailed hawks, which are a little bit bigger, have a red tail, which you can't always see, and their wings are broader and will have dark feathers along the front of the wing and then lighter feathers along the back. They can be pretty tricky to tell apart, but it's pretty neat when you get to see them side by side. Swainson's hawks are also very interesting because they will come back to the same nest territory and breed with the same mate for years and years, as long as they're successful. They're really well adapted to the farming in the Delta. They especially love hunting in alfalfa fields. They'll follow the farm equipment as they're harvesting the crops. They'll sit and watch as the farm fields are being irrigated and look for whatever critters might come out to hunt. And then they also build their nests in the trees that's kind of are above these farms and the Delta waterways. They do kind of have a hard time hunting in orchards and vineyards. It's harder for them to find prey. But because there's so many nest sites in the Delta and which are near DWR project sites, we spend a lot of time observing and surveying and monitoring Swainson's hawk nests to make sure they're not disturbed. We often get to see the same birds come back year after year, the same project sites. It's kind of neat. It's like seeing friends come back after the end of summer. They often become accustomed to the construction projects, and we often get to see them raise anywhere from 1 to 3 chicks every year before they leave in the fall. So they're pretty special. Another species that spends a lot of time in the Delta is the Sandhill Crane. This bird comes to the Delta the opposite time of year. They show up in mid-September, October. They stay through the winter and they leave by mid-March. Sandhill cranes occur across North America, but the birds that come here to the Delta in the winter, which is this red star down on this map here, will breed up in Alaska, in Washington, and Oregon. And for a big bird like this to migrate that far, they stop a lot along the way. So they need a string of habitats along their migration route. Here in the Delta, they use flooded farm fields and wetlands to eat and sleep. They sleep standing up in groups together. These groups are called roosts. Cranes will often use the same roost year after year, these same places where they sleep. So these sites are very important in the Delta. Sandhill cranes are very sensitive to human disturbance. If they're disturbed or if their habitat is converted to some kind of land use that they can't use, they can lose this habitat forever, which can harm their ability to be prepared for the next breeding season. So you have to be really careful not to disturb these Sandhill crane roosts while they're sleeping. Sandhill cranes eat the leftover grains after crops like corn or rice have been harvested. They also eat small animals like mice, frogs. So they don't really cause a problem for farmers. Here's just a couple more pictures of Sandhill cranes. They're just really special and beautiful birds. They're really big. They stand about 3 to 5 feet tall, which for me, is about up to my shoulder. They're big birds and they can weigh anywhere from about 6 to 14 pounds. They're really beautiful and elegant. They have these gray feathers, long necks and legs, and they have like a bright red cap on their head. In this lower right photo here, you can actually see a young bird which does not have the red cap on its head yet, and it's a little bit smaller than the bird next to it. They also do these really neat, I guess you call it looks like a dance. The birds will kind of hop up and float down. So if you ever get a chance to spend some time observing Sandhill cranes, I highly recommend it. They're really neat birds. So there's just so many cool birds in the Delta. It's really hard to just focus on a few. Some will kind of hang out year round. Some just hang out for a few days to a few months. It just shows that Delta is such an important place for these millions of birds. They come from all over the western half of the world. And even if the Delta isn't your home and you don't get a chance to see these birds, birding is just a really fun and easy way to enjoy nature. Even now, during where most of us are still dealing with stay-at-home orders, can't really go all the places we're used to going when the weather's nice. You can watch birds in your backyard, out your window, around your neighborhood, places close to home. And birding is really well suited to social distancing. It's best done alone or with a small group of people. It's also just a really great way to get to know the area around you, especially when you get to notice the patterns of birds coming and going throughout the seasons. So I really encourage you to look up and around when you walk around your yard, your neighborhood, or wherever you're going. Bird watching has really helped me feel connected to the world, especially right now, just knowing that so many of these birds have traveled from so far all over the world just to come here where I live. And that's all I've got for you today. Thank you for taking the time to listen.
Great, thank you, Danica. I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
So how would somebody get started with birding? I mean, you need a good pair of binoculars. I still have, my really big, thick Audubon and Sibley's bird guides.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's the best way to start learning about some of these birds?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, some of the equipment can get expensive, but you can also find inexpensive binoculars. Again, I think it's a great place to start is the birds in your own backyards. You get to see them day after day. Yeah, a field guide that has pictures of birds and helps identify them are really helpful. People with smartphones, there's all sorts of bird identification apps you can use. I believe that Cornell has one. I think it's called like All About Birds. Anyway, you can start small or you can go really big. It depends on where you want to take it.
How many birds do you think you're capable of identifying, just on sight or by sound?
Oh, well, let's see. I've been doing this for over 20 years. That's a hard thing to count. Probably a few hundred. I've definitely used help of field guides, and I've gotten over the years a lot of experience identifying bird songs, which is helpful because some birds are really hard to find. They're popping around in the trees, and it's hard even with binoculars to see them sometimes.
So we have a question that's come in. Can you describe in a little more detail what your job is? Like, what's a typical day in the field, what data you collect, and how you collect it?
My job can really vary. I mean, some of it is just reviewing documents that talk about bird impacts to give input on whether they've been evaluated right. But for field work, which is definitely what I got into this to do, now I do a lot of bird surveys. So if there's a project site, I'll drive out with my binoculars and my notebook and look for birds all over the project site or a given area around that project site and try to identify all the birds that are nesting. Nesting is a really kind of crucial portion of the bird's life because it's pretty vulnerable and it's pretty important. So that's a big thing that we do is protecting nesting birds. So doing surveys, getting to sit there and watch a Swainson's hawk raise its chicks near a construction site for a whole season. We have people out right now doing that, and I've been getting pictures of baby hawks, and it's really fun.
Do the Swainson hawks, do they raise more than one, is it a clutch of birds when you're talking about?
Yeah, so they'll have 1 to 3 chicks, occasionally more, but yeah, 2 to 3 is really common to see.
What type of bird are you most excited to see when you're out in the field?
Type of bird. Oh, that's a good one. This time of year, I really like seeing the songbirds that are just passing through because a lot of them are only here for a couple weeks. So I think it's really exciting. And again, like I said, like knowing that some of them have come from so far away, and then they're gone. So I think that's really exciting. But then So I think each season I kind of get excited to see whatever bird's coming. So like in, September, October, I get really excited to see the waterfowl and shorebirds showing up. And yeah, it's really true. So that's a hard question for a bird person.
Do we have pelicans that migrate through the Central Valley?
Yeah, we have pelicans and pelicans. And some will do live here as well. Oh. Yeah, they're really neat.
What do they eat in the Delta? I mean, we usually think of them eating as like, ocean fish. Do they just eat Delta fish when they're here?
Yeah. Or? Yeah. You'll see pelicans in big groups. They'll kind of circle up and kind of take time. I'm just pretending to their beaks. They will kind of corral some fish and take turns trying to grab them.
Great. So you mentioned some of the birds are just here for a few days or even a few weeks, but is there, if people want to see a lot of birds, is there a specific time of year that is best to go out to the Delta?
I would say winter is a really good time because we have all of these ducks, shorebirds, the Sandhill Cranes are here in the winter. And a good thing about these birds is they're pretty big, they're really visible. If you go to some of the wildlife preserves, like Cosumnes River Preserve, which I know might be closed right now, but yeah, in the winter you can just see groups of thousands of birds, and when they take off, it's really amazing, and there's just a huge variety of bird species that come here in the winter.
Are there any invasive birds that come through or need to be removed?
Yeah, we have European starlings here, kind of like everyone else. Let's see what else. Grackles have kind of moved in. We have brown-headed cowbirds, which are actually native to California, but they are nest parasites, and they've kind of really expanded. They're a problem for nesting songbirds. I'm trying to think of other invasive bird species. We have, oh my gosh. I'm totally drawing a blank on the doves that are here.
A little bit about what you mean by the brown-headed cowbirds being nest parasites?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So brown-headed cowbirds, they're really pretty neat, even though they can be harmful to bird species. They will find another small bird's nest and lay their eggs in that bird's nest. And then the other bird species doesn't know, and so they raise this cowbird's chicks. And so by doing that, it reduces the resources available for the other bird's chicks, and they'll often be bigger and kind of take up more of the resources, so they can really cause problems for nesting birds.
One final question. Do you have a favorite project that you've worked on or that stands out for you?
In the Delta? I have gotten to work on doing bird monitoring for some really big restoration projects in the Delta on Sherman and Twitchell Islands and in Dutch Slough, Dutch Slough is under construction right now. And it's been really fun to see those projects go from a lot of them are converting to wetlands. So just to see what they kind of came from, old farms that are getting converted to wetlands, to see how the bird community is shifting through that. Another one of my favorite projects isn't in the Delta, but it's on the Sacramento River, and we survey for bank swallows, which are another threatened species, and they nest in burrows. They dig into the sides of the river banks, and it's just a really special bird and a really neat survey to get to participate in.
Wonderful. So for people to go out and start learning about the birds, they can go to the Delta, but is there a particular wildlife refuge that you really love for birding?
Let's see. In the Delta, I mean, I think that Cosumnes River Preserve is a great spot. Yolo Wildlife Area is kind of a little bit north of there. That's another good spot. And then just if you can get down to Staten Island, there's a lot of Sandhill Cranes down there in the winter, and a lot of ducks and shorebirds use Staten Island in the winter. But yeah, there's just a lot of, and then even just along the trails, along the rivers, you can see lots of songbirds and ducks in the river. It's just, there's a lot of cool places around here.
They really are. And California's got wildlife refuges throughout the state where people can go and see different birds. Great. Well, thank you, Danica, so much for sharing with all of us about some of the birds in the Delta. And for everyone who's watching, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the Swainson hawks and the type of work that Danica does, you can visit our website, water.ca.gov/news/blog. We just posted an article about the work that she does, as well as a really amazing video with some great footage of the hawks in the Delta. So that's a lot of fun to watch as well. We will be back next Wednesday at 1:00 p.m. We'll be talking with Veronica Wunderlich about a herp for every season. Spoiler alert, herps are reptiles and amphibians. So if you like reptiles and amphibians, or if you don't like reptiles and amphibians, come listen to Veronica talk about why they are so amazing and what ones you can find in the Delta. Again, if you'd like to learn more about water resources or download some materials or order materials for your kids at home to learn about the Delta, we've got coloring sheets and other things they can read about. Visit our website, water.ca.gov or water.ca.gov/education-materials. Again, thank you to Danica. Thank you everybody at home who joined us, and we hope to see you next Wednesday. Bye.